Welcome to another episode of Bare Bones Banter with a Mental Funny Bone. Today's guest is someone who's done a little bit of everything and somehow made it all mean something. Lindsay Scola has spent her career at the intersection of politics, media, and purpose-driven storytelling. She's worked with names you know and causes you care about. But today we're peeling back the curtain on something a little more personal, her journey with ADHD and her new book, AI for ADHD, a practical guide to starting and actually finishing what matters. What makes Lindsay such a perfect guest for the Mental Funny Bone isn't just her impressive resume, it's her unfiltered, real way of talking about what it's like to navigate the real. Bleh. You're doing so well reading.
Hi, Lindsay. It's so nice to have you on our show.
Hi, it's very nice to be here.
We're just living, we're just doing it because I practiced that shit so many times and I couldn't get past the world, navigate the real world,
Real
world with brain that doesn't always follow the rules. Like my brain
My
was
brain
somewhere
doesn't
else.
follow any rules. There was a
Yeah.
memo that I was supposed to get at some point, and it didn't get handed over. So maybe I'll get it someday. I'm 42. There's still time.
Yeah. Whatever. We're all waiting for that memo, I think. Yeah. So thanks, Lindsay, for joining us. I so much appreciate it. Lindsay, give us a little bit of background about your ADHD story.
So yeah, I mean, now that I know what's going on with my brain, I can track ADHD back to early childhood. I've always had an injustice sensitivity. So I staged my first walkout in first grade for unfair treatment in the lunchroom. It was the first, but definitely not the last time my parents came to collect me from the principal's office. But I was always like very talkative when I was engaged. So another reason that I was always in trouble. Had a lot of anxiety that built up in my teenage years about my visual processing. I can read and reread something many, many times and not see that a word is spelled wrong, that I'm missing an adverb in a sentence, or that I've completely repeated a sentence, or that there's just like nonsensical words in the middle of it. I always catch them right after I've sent the email. But the 20 times that I read it before I send the email, it doesn't come to me. And so there are a lot of anxiety built up over the years around, putting public work out into the world. I definitely, had an interesting story intertwined that I also was diagnosed with narcolepsy when I was 35. But backing up to when I was 16, I started experiencing these moments of just excessive sleepiness. I could be completely otherwise engaged. And then all of a sudden it was like a fog hit me, anesthetized my faculties, and it was just like a hammer going off in my head. Like, if you don't go to sleep right now, you're going to die. And so when I was 16, I talked about this with our family doctor, who told me that I was busy and busy people are tired. And I was continuing to sneak naps in the bathroom all the way up through my early career. I would like go lock myself in a stall, put my head against a wall, and sleep for like 15 minutes, and then usually feel better. But as my career was building, when I finished college, I was noticing that I didn't feel as smart as everyone else around me. I felt like I was being laughed by my colleagues. I felt a lot of brain fog. And this went on for a really long time. At 35, again, I was diagnosed with narcolepsy, and I felt like I got some answers on that, but there were still like wiring that wasn't quite fitting together. And when I hit my late 30s, I was in early perimenopause, started feeling a bit like a toddler in a middle-aged body, and was really struggling with executive dysfunction. So that was emotional dysregulation, being able to follow through on very simple tasks. And then all of a sudden, sort of seeing this infinite web of possibilities, whether it was deciding what I was going to eat for breakfast or a work email that I needed to send, and not being able to follow through on that, and just feeling this utter paralyzed state that I couldn't get out of. I just felt like my brain had like 150 browser tabs open, and that like spinning wheel of death going on top of them, and I didn't know which one was playing music. So when I was 41, I finally got some insight that this was likely ADHD, and I got tested, and not only did I have ADHD, I scored in the 99 percentile because I believe in going big on things. So
Yeah.
here we are.
You're an overachiever.
I am absolutely an
That's
overachiever.
fantastic.
Why have ADHD when you can have it at the 99% level?
Right. Absolutely. And I love your coffee mug.
Thank you. I made it.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love it. Good at naps.
I'm very good at naps.
So and this often happens and it's happening already and it happens constantly in our interviews. I have a bunch of questions that I want to ask you, and I immediately go away from those and talk about something else. So I'm going to go back to the narcolepsy. How does that even work? I guess I'm like, how did they figure out that you had narcolepsy? Did you just continue? Like, how did you continue to advocate for yourself? Is that what it was? Like, you just kept pushing, like, this isn't normal. I'm not just tired. I'm not just exhausted.
Yeah, I mean, for 19 years, I kept reporting that something didn't feel right. I was tested for sleep apnea multiple times and told that I was fine. And then I would always get handed this checklist of sleep hygiene habits. And when it gets handed to you that way, it's sort of like that you do all of these or you are doomed to be a shitty sleeper and it's your fault. And I worked a crazy job. I was a presidential advance person. I, regularly had 20-hour days. I was traveling all the time. I had one doctor who was sure that if I stopped working in bed, all of this would go away.
Oh.
And maybe, but I don't know that a human should be this tired from using their laptop in bed. Narcolepsy actually has 5 distinct but very separate symptoms. And I would never know to report them all together. So I was talking about them separately. And what happens is most general practitioners have less than 2 hours of sleep education. So they weren't knowing to ask the questions to put these together. So that's excessive daytime sleepiness, like I talked about before, which can either hit you in a moment where you feel otherwise engaged or feel like you never went to sleep when you wake up. And sometimes people with narcolepsy can feel like they've been awake for 72 hours, even after a full night of sleep. The other is hypnagogic or hypnopompic hallucinations, which is a hallucination as you're falling asleep or as you're waking up. And these feel like very vivid dreams, but they're often in the space that you're in. They can actually be audio, visual, sensory, or all 3. Most of mine have always been audio. I've heard people speaking in Russian in the hallway, construction happening at 3 o'clock in the morning, the dog barking when he's fast asleep, things crashing, my husband talking to me. The visual ones tend to be a lot scarier, usually something coming into the room and you can't defend yourself because they're coupled with something called sleep paralysis, where you can't move or you can't scream, which anyone can have at any point in their life, but people with narcolepsy tend to have a lot more frequently. And then some people with narcolepsy have something called cataplexy, which is losing muscle tone when you have a strong emotion. So for some people, that might mean that their jaw slacks when they laugh, or they might lose control of their knees. Cataplexy seems very tied to emotional dysregulation. So I've been a crier my whole life when I'm very frustrated, when I don't have the words to explain what's happening, or I don't feel like I'm in control of a situation. And when this happens, my lower lip droops, my eyes will droop a little bit. It's mine is very minor, so it's hard to notice. My husband can see it a mile away, but most people, other people don't see it. Or I lose control of my hands. I am a moderate skier who is afraid of moderate hills. So sometimes when I am skiing, I lose control of my poles, which is like 1 out of 5 stars. I don't recommend. So these symptoms were sort of happening separate from each other. And so when I would talk about the vivid dreams, they'd be like, oh, those are night terrors. And that's because you've got a really stressful job and that's how it's manifesting. By the way, adults do not remember night terrors. So that is incorrect. You can have nightmares, which, can be a manifestation of stress. But if you are constantly having a very, very vivid dreams that feel very real, sometimes you don't know if it happened or didn't, that is actually something called a hallucination and definitely something worth talking to a sleep doctor about.
Wow. This is all shit I would never even think of course.
Yeah. No, and I mean, I literally had a temper tantrum on the floor of my general practitioner's office when I was 35, that I was told again that nothing was wrong and that I should practice better sleep hygiene. And I was apoplectic. I went home, I drank an entire bottle of red wine, and I ate a pint of Ben and Jerry's Cherry Garcia, and I found the end of the internet. And I was convinced that I still had sleep apnea because it was the only sleep disorder I'd ever heard of. And I'd had one of the at-home tests, and I'd found out that the at-home tests were created by the VA as a cheap alternative for overweight middle-aged men. So I was like, this is not me. This is still what I have. It turns out that is not what I have. But my doctor looked at me and said, we have now passed both of our knowledge on sleep. I will send you to a sleep specialist. I have been complaining about issues with excessive sleepiness and sleep in general for 19 years. And it literally took this meltdown for me to even know that sleep specialists were a thing.
Yeah.
And for somebody to recommend that I go to one. And I was diagnosed with narcolepsy a few weeks later.
Go ahead,
sorry.
Christine.
I mean, we talk about it all the time, right? Like when you're going through whatever it is, if it's not if it's not a physical ailment, it's really hard to get somebody to really look at it and pay attention. You know, the same thing for me, right? Like, not necessarily to the extent, because I didn't really have that many symptoms, right? Like ADHD, I paid attention, I was quiet, I wouldn't have disturbed a classroom if I was on fire.
Legit.
But I was such a daydreamer. Like,
Oh
looking
yeah.
at, like, not one single time was I in class like, oh yeah, no, let me write everything down. I'm like, oh yeah, no, I'll just figure it out later. Right
Let me
now
just
I'm
imagine this
thinking,
house I'm going to have on the moon someday.
right,
Yes.
right now I'm thinking about snow. Right,
But there's always a connection to how you got there. The teacher
right,
said
like,
something about winter, and then you were like, oh, there was this one trip that the family took, and there was snow there. And then I'm thinking about that cute coat that I got. And then this one thing that my mom said to me 7 years ago that I'm now going to hyper focus on for the next 2 hours. And I have not paid attention to anything happening in life.
right, right, 100%. But I mean, I think that's like a common theme that, again, if I didn't come in here with a broken arm, my PCP is probably going to be like, yeah, I don't know, I heard about these things twice during med school. I mean, we tend to assign a lot of importance to their medical knowledge when they're in fact like little car mechanics. And if they can see the broken window, then they can fix the broken window. But if they can't see the underlying carburetor issue, then they can't help you that much with it. So it's, just another little reminder to if you know something's wrong and you know something's off and you know something's different, like, don't just say, okay, thanks, doctor. I appreciate and respect your 26 years of knowledge. I will just quietly go off in the corner and suffer quietly by myself.
And trust your
Yeah.
intuition.
Mhm.
I had a doctor. Now backtracking that I collect disorders like other people collect cool sneakers. So I also have celiac disease and Hashimoto's hypothyroid. And the doctor who diagnosed me with celiac was like, "You have a very strong gut. You know your body. I will always listen to you." And I've always carried that with me, that I know when something is not right. Now, unfortunately, this sort of system that we're in, advocating for yourself sometimes feels like you need to diagnose yourself, which I missed that day at med school. So often what I have diagnosed with myself with is far from accurate. And so it's very easy for doctors to come back and say, no, that's not what it is, versus the like improv solution here of like, yes, and let's figure out what is going on. And so I think it's very important to keep track of everything and write down symptoms and tell me, I need you to explain what all of these symptoms are, versus like, I have this, tell me that I have this. And so that they don't feel like, they've just said no to that thing and then we've moved on. When I first realized that this was likely ADHD, I had actually been on Ritalin for narcolepsy, because narcolepsy doesn't have a novel treatment. So you're just treating symptoms, and ADHD stimulants have a wakefulness component. So a lot of people with narcolepsy end up taking ADHD stimulants to serve that purpose. And at the time, I had been sort of going on higher and higher dose, try to capture that wakefulness component. And I started having really bad anxiety. So I went off and went on to a non ADHD stimulant. And so I had some of these like symptoms that were popping up. And I have a pilot script that I wrote. My producing partner was like, I think you should add a neurodivergent character. So we decided to give a woman in her 30s ADHD. Now, I thought I knew what ADHD was, and it's that thing that boys like, pop off
Right.
in the classroom and they're bouncing off the walls. And I'm like researching and I'm writing. And now suddenly she's become the easiest character in the script for me to write, because I realized I was writing myself. And so like all these things were clicking. And actually the first psychologist that I got into that took my insurance and went through that whole process told me that she would test me if I wanted to. She didn't think I had it. She just thought I was going through a cognitive decline in my 40s and I should start keeping a calendar. And I was just like, lady, I've been keeping a calendar since I was a teenager. I didn't come to you because I was missing drinks with the girls. I came to you because I am paralyzed from the minute I wake up to the minute I go to bed, and my head will not stop swirling. There are 1,000 ping pong balls going off in there, and like, I can't do anything with any of them. But yeah, sure, I'll work on that calendar. So
Right.
I made the decision to no longer see her and to find somebody who was going to listen.
That's hilarious. Like, I don't have 37 brand new
Mhm.
notebooks and collective sets of pens.
Oh, I love
Well,
the
as someone with
pens.
ADHD, you will appreciate this. So they had sent me a whole packet of information to fill out. So I did that and I start this call with her and she's like, you didn't send your information in. And I'm like, no, I did send it
Okay.
in. Now, it turns out that I had had fraudulent activity on my credit card in the time between submitting that and my appointment. So when her team went to run the credit card, it didn't go through. So it was missing the credit card information, not my paperwork. I do have to say though, if I hadn't submitted my paperwork, that would be a really good symptom that I had ADHD. So yeah, no, it was not a good appointment all around.
So you decided to switch doctors from there. What was that process like? I mean, the next doctor that you found, the next psychologist that you found, was that the one? Like, how did you go about finding
Yes.
the one?
No, I went and I did a bunch of deep research, found someone who had like sleep disorders also like written in their
Hmm.
profile that they might understand a little bit more about what I was going through. And I was fortunate that the next person that I found was a great listener, did the testing, and had a really positive experience and continued to see her as my psychologist. But when I did my like first call with her to decide if we should move forward, I explained what happened, and she's like, "Look, I'm not going to tell you that you have ADHD if that's just what you want to hear." And I was like, "You could tell me just about anything at this point. I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's ADHD. I know that something is not working in my brain right now, and I need answers. And a cognitive decline at 41 is not actually what I am looking to hear, because that I don't believe that that's the case
Yeah.
right now." And she was like, "No, I definitely understand that," and went through the testing, and sure enough, that was the case. And she ended up being really fantastic at treatment, and really, really worked hard for me to build a tool chest to put tools in, because what works for one person isn't going to work for another person. Which is the reason I wrote the book, is that sort of every
Right.
productivity manual out there is very regimented. Even if you're going through like cognitive behavioral therapy for ADHD, it just felt very regimented. And so I would read a chapter and be like, yeah, this is not my issue. And then I'm completely turned off, because the way ADHD brains work is the minute that I lose interest or the minute doesn't feel relevant for me, my brain has stopped receiving
Hmm.
information. And so I wanted to put something out there to make it very clear from the get-go that what works for you might not work for me, and vice versa. And it's about building as many tools as possible and figuring out what does work for you, and having permission to play and see what works. And what works right now might not work 10 months from now, and that's okay to switch it up. And it's not about continuing to buy the same notebook over and over again and hope, today's the day it might stick.
Yeah. For sure. And I know, Christina, this all has to make you feel like,
Like,
oh,
like a person. Yes, it does.
wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, yeah, it's nice. It's nice. So, Lindsay, I didn't get diagnosed until what, last year. So the first time I tried this was because my daughter actually was diagnosed, and they're like, "Oh, there's genetics involved here." And I was like, "Well, I don't know where she gets it, because clearly it's not for me. I'm super high functioning. Like, I'm not a problem in anybody's classroom. I am a classic people pleaser, and I don't know what you guys are talking about." And then I started like looking at the tests that they were giving her, and I was like, I'm all of these things. Like, this is that there might this is me. This might be my thing. And at the time, there were a lot of online options. So I saw a really nice guy online.
I totally forgot about this. I love this story.
Right. This guy, my psychiatrist pops on, he's chewing on a pen. I'm like, yeah, if this guy's going to be able to diagnose ADHD, yeah, this is going to
Is
be
he
the
the one that
guy.
was wearing the surgical hat
Right.
though?
Yeah, he
Like
was
he
wearing
just
like
came out of
surgical
surgery for AD?
scrubs. Right. Yeah, I don't know. It was
I
like,
want one of those ADHD surgeries. Where do I get that?
Right.
honestly, I was like, can I sign? What kind of doctor? What kind of are you playing dress up? Are you cosplaying as a doctor? What is happening? Like, you're a psychiatrist.
No,
What are
he
you
was a Facebook doctor, you asshole.
100%. He was a Facebook doctor. He was kind enough to write me a prescription, and I took that, and I was like, I don't know that this is the best idea. In fact, I completely talked to myself because I was so dumb, and I tried to get some help there. I was like, well, if this is the only place that I'm going to be able to get help, and then I can't get these prescriptions filled because this guy's a quack and everyone knows he's a quack. I probably just don't have it. Like, this probably isn't my problem. Right, because I don't deserve good care if I fall for these things. So,
Which is
then I
also a
waited,
symptom of ADHD.
right? 100%. So then I wait until Sarah and I start doing this podcast, and then I'm like, I should probably go to the like a real psychiatrist and see if maybe this isn't my problem. So, like, I am such a new ADHD diagnosis person that every time somebody says it, I'm like, you're my friend.
I know, like we're in the club together. And then I like realized, like, once you find out that you have it, then you start like realizing that all of your friends have it too, because you've like collected people around you who process information in the same way. And then we're in this together. But I highly recommend for people who have started with a psychiatrist to work with a psychologist as well, because I'm very grateful for what Ritalin does for me in terms of dopamine control, but it doesn't do a lot for a lot of, prefrontal cortex stuff, like the emotional dysregulation piece, which is one of my like worst things that I deal with. I have a lot of ADHD superpowers. I'm grateful for that. Emotional dysregulation is not one of them. And so sort of anything that my brain can't process why it's working that way, I feel like it's an old school TV and the static just builds up, and basically my prefrontal cortex flies up, and I'm just like stuck with this very angry amygdala who doesn't want me to do anything. And I am just in fight or flight. And my therapist came up with the best strategy for me to put an ice pack on the back of your neck. And so what happens to that is that you've got your vagus nerve, which runs from the top of your head down the back of your head, down the back of your throat, and then into your organs. And so when it hits the back of your neck and it touches that vagus nerve, it turns on the prefrontal cortex, it comes down, and like rational thought returns. And so just a couple of seconds of that cold can really sort of change your whole outlook. Eating a sour candy does the exact same thing. And so I have Sour Patch Kids everywhere on me. Okay, actually, I have the Try It Makes a Sour Patch Kid gum, which is a better alternative for me, because when I have the Sour Patch Kid bag, then I want to eat the whole Sour Patch Kid bag. And perimenopause has not been kind to my waistline. So the Trident gum, you get the hit of sour without 700 grams of sugar. But having those tools has been super helpful for me in conjunction with medication.
Yeah,
And
I
then
don't.
and just understanding what's happening. That has been one of the biggest things of all, is like, okay, like I'm seeking dopamine right now. That is what is happening right now. My husband and I actually, like, when we start getting into an argument, he'll look at me and be like, "Are you really annoyed with me? Or are you just looking for dopamine?" And sometimes it's both.
Wow. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, the psychiatrist is great because she's very understanding. She's like, how you feeling? How's it going? How are your prescriptions? How are these things lining up? And sometimes for me, the ADHD turns into a lot of anxiety because, I'm just not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not able to get everything done like I want to. So she was like, maybe try this, and we'll put a little bit of this in it, and then we'll try this. And so that's great. But even like watching you do this makes me love my therapist more and more every day. So Sarah and Becca, this little thumb is your lizard brain, and this guy is all of your high functioning brain that can cover up your lizard brain. So this is, you know, that's what that is. Like, I'm a grown up. I am a fight or flight kind of person, and I'll grab the back of your head and punch you in the face. No, I won't.
Well, I
So,
mean, what's amazing with like ADHD is that you can do the biggest, most complicated thing in the world and be cool, calm, and flat. And then you try to like put on a sports bra when you're slightly damp, and you're ready to pull your own eyelashes out.
right,
Um,
right. It's crazy. But like, there are times where I'm just sitting there talking to her, and she's like, "Oh, that's ADHD, right?" I'm like, "No, it isn't. It's just me being me." And she's like, "Right, ADHD."
There you have it.
oh yeah, no. And when I decided that I wanted to be a screenwriter in my late 30s and did not understand rejection sensitivity to dysmorphia, and that like every comment to me feels like a gut punch, and you think that I am the dumbest person in the world, that you would make any comment at whatsoever. So taking feedback it's been a win for me.
I admire it. I admire it. Yeah. Sorry, Sarah. I know you got questions, and
Why?
I just keep derailing because
You don't have to apologize, because I feel like this is ridiculously good for you, ridiculously good for our listeners to hear. And I just want to make sure everybody knows that I have my sour candies. and they're the sour dickheads. So,
I
Every
kind of need these.
every damn
yeah,
week.
I just
There's a
I have
penis
to.
every
I have
week.
dick candy all over the place here that Noah bought me. My husband bought me for Christmas. He's the
That's
best.
that's amazing. And
Yeah.
I have found that sour candy does help me focus.
Yeah.
So if I need to stay focused, having the sour candy in front of me, but just like a moderated amount of the sour candy.
Yeah, I'm kind of amazed that this bag is still here. I think it's just still here because, well, I save it for episodes is what I do.
I
So,
I had to recently move my emotional support bowl of candy
yeah.
into the kitchen because I can't continue to eat just candy.
Do you have sour candies in the emotional
Yeah.
support bowl of candy? Okay,
Yeah,
I feel like you definitely.
I will dig past the chocolate to get to the Sour Patch Kids.
Mhm.
And I had no idea why, but this kind of makes sense.
Do you
Well, I mean, if you
remember?
have the candy in the kitchen and you're standing, calories don't count. I don't know if you know that that's the actual rule.
I Let me write
There
it
you
down.
go. Put that on a post-it. So, Christine, this weekend I had some sour candies and I thought of our trip to Trader Joe's where we got the ribbons. What were the name of the ribbons? Because they were the
The
most fantastic
sourest,
things.
strawberry ulcer
Strawberry
causing ropes.
ribbons of heaven is what they were. And they tore your mouth up, but man, were they delicious while you were eating them.
Those are my favorite though, because then I need a break in between them so that
Right.
like I got what I needed from it, but then I didn't proceed to eat the entire bag. So the ones that are just sour enough, like you got what you came for, but then you didn't realize because you know, people, especially people with ADHD, are not really great at controlling themselves in those situations. So then you're like, the box is gone. Did someone else eat I wasn't me. Did you eat the box to the person not in the room?
Yeah,
Right.
I definitely have ADHD too. I'm calling it. That's fine.
Yes, you
I
do.
keep disposable ice packs everywhere, the shake 'em up ones,
Like just for
And I love
just
that.
to
I
put
think
on the
that's
back of
such
my
a
neck.
cool
They're everywhere.
idea.
They're in the car. They're in my bag. They're on the stand next to me here. There's like multiple ice packs in the freezer as well. But if that feels too far to get to, my husband's gotten really good though. Like my lip starts to quiver when I'm going into meltdown mode, and he will come right up behind me and this like ice pack on the back of the neck. As soon as he sees that lip going, it's like, I mean, it's amazing. The ice pack is there. He's very talented at this.
I
That's
love
amazing.
that. And all these little tricks, building your toolbox, where did these come from? Did they come from the doctor? Did they come from you just doing the research and just, what's the word I'm looking for? Trial and error?
Yeah, a combo of all of the above. I mean, my psychologist really got me started on it and then doing a lot of research when I realized that the vagus nerve stuff was actually like very helpful for me. And I'm somebody who really learns by teaching.
Yeah.
So, I really appreciate analogies for things. It's definitely an ADHD thing that people think we talk about ourselves a lot, but it's actually like a sign that we're engaged because you're relating to it. And so then you bring it back to a story about you. I don't know if you watched Will and Grace in the 90s, but Jack would always say like just Jack. My family
Yeah.
would famously call those just Lindsay moments. But that's how I relate to things. But so I really love analogies and that, my work is around getting people to understand their sleep better. And I really like to break that down into a way that the science makes a lot more sense to us so that, feels applicable in our lives. And so as I was starting to like make these analogies work for myself, especially around understanding executive function, teaching that to other people became a way for me to continue to build this toolbox that, for some things that like don't help me as much, but that I found help other people, and just understanding why that works for them helps me find other things that help me better. And so it's sort of been like a bigger growing and building up from there.
Awesome. I love that because I see that in both Christine and in the both of us. I feel like we do that a lot in sharing stories. And I mean, that's what we do with our podcast. We share stories about ourselves and the challenges that we've met and how we've pushed through them and whatnot. But yeah, it's definitely this is Sarah.
Just me. I do it. I'm so guilty of it, especially this week. I'm like, oh no, Lindsay, let me tell you about me.
No, but you're
But I
like,
take that as like the biggest compliment because that means that you're engaged and you're listening.
Right.
and Christine, I also think it's something because the sciency part of things, like that's where your brain just like all sorts of lights up. And I think you just being diagnosed more recently, like that has a lot to do with it. And that all makes sense. Going off of that, though, and building your toolbox, let's talk a little bit about the book. How did you discover AI? How did
AI.
AI?
So, I had before my diagnosis, I had started playing around with AI. I wasn't super familiar with what it was. And when new stuff comes on the scene, I've always thought it was my responsibility to at least understand it, even if I wasn't going to use it. I like to approach life like an architect. I don't need to know how to do the plumbing on the sink, but I need to know the sink goes by water. And so that was like, I at least need to understand if I'm working with someone who's working with AI that I'm not being bullshitted. And like, so that was where I came at it. I was like, I at least want to understand how this works. And, long before my diagnosis, I was seeing that it was a really good proofreader for me, because of these issues. I was noticing that I was really starting to like dumb my writing down because I was so paranoid about using the wrong version of a word. And spell checkers will, catch if you spell the word wrong. They won't necessarily catch if you use the wrong version of the word. And, then you get into your head about like everyone's going to see that and think that I'm not smart. And, you already have all these feelings about not being smart enough on top of that. And so I started using it basically as a really fancy spell checker. And, then I was starting to play around with training it on writing and realizing that, I have always been a writer and that I have, ideas that are constantly going through my head. But by the time I was sitting down to write, I was so paralyzed about messing up the spelling or the structure or a typo that I would be so focused on how to start the sentence that I wouldn't even remember like what I was trying to get to. And so AI really became the net for me of the trapeze. Like I could start playing with my writing, knowing that something was there to catch me. And, the other issues that would happen for me is, for those of us who were born before this century, that filing system in the library in college where you would have to like go to the card catalog to like get to the stacks to find the books. I'm constantly feeling like that's where I'm like searching for words and the word doesn't come. And then you get completely either stuck on the sentence because you can't figure out the word you were trying to say, or you go to some online thesaurus and then you see an ad for, shopping and then you're, adding to cart and then you're in your email inbox and hours have gone by and I'm like redoing my sock drawer and I have no idea what I was trying to write in the first place. And so like it then became a sort of focus thing where it was like, okay, I can like type what I'm trying to type and just leave a blank and then let the AI fill in that blank word for me and keep going. And, then when I got my diagnosis and was really understanding what was happening with my brain, especially understanding with ADHD that you have really differing moods, and that, a little bit of medication, a little bit of just, how you're processing information that day. And so things like getting meeting notes out to people after a meeting would feel like the most paralyzing thing. And then you do this thing where you're like beating yourself up that you didn't do that thing in the time that you were supposed to do it. And so you take even longer to do it versus just doing it in the moment you realize you should have done it. So I started using, an online note taker that gives me a summary from the meeting. So I can go through and I can look at that summary, make sure that it's accurate, throw it into ChatGPT with like my writing style and have it write it to sound like me. And then I get the meeting minutes out right away. Nobody cares if I spent hours working on the prose of that email. They care that they got the information. So like use your big brain days for your creative writing and your original thoughts on that, but use this to get the stuff out that you otherwise wouldn't get out. I am blessed to have a lot of, friends and colleagues who work in these really big spaces and need amplification on things on LinkedIn. And I would get so hung up on the like, how exactly do I say this thing that I wouldn't do the post. Instead, I can sit down and chat GPT and say like, okay, I want to say that it's this, this, and this. And it might not be the prettiest writing. It might not be spelled correctly. ChatGPT gives me something that sounds like me saying the things that I wanted to say. And then I can put that out there. But I think a lot of us were really afraid at first because you did get on LinkedIn and you saw that person who had never spent any time on ChatGPT and wrote like, give me a post about leadership. And then it sounded like a robot from 300 years in the future wrote it. And I don't want to read that. I certainly don't want anyone to think that I potentially wrote that. So, I was definitely like this moment of like, all right, let me understand this tech and then seeing that it actually worked for me. And as I was seeing that it was working for me, I was like, I bet this would work for other people. and really wanted to put the manual out there that I wished I had had. Now, I mean, I wish I had had AI a long time ago too, but we work with the timeline that we're given. So it's a combination of understand. The first chapter is why does my brain work the way that it does? And I've heard from a lot of people who don't have ADHD, but have ADHD people in their world, whether it's a loved one or somebody they work with, that it's been really helpful for them to understand how ADHD brains process information. The second chapter is about what is AI and why does it work the way that it does. If you're someone who's been using ChatGPT for years now, go ahead and skip it. I won't know. You're not going to hurt my feelings. And then it progressively works from there on practical applications of it, using it for writing, ethical considerations, how to not become overly reliant on it. I think a lot about when I was a kid that I remembered all my friends' phone numbers. I knew my parents' work numbers. I knew the movie theater phone numbers. So I could check the show times because life was exhilarating before the internet.
Right.
And now the only reason I remember my husband's phone number is because we share it for the Ralph's discount at the grocery store. So when we stop using things, our brain moves on to other stuff. And I never want to get to a place for myself, and I'm sure you all feel the same way, that I can't write a sentence, and that I lose that ability that I have, because otherwise it's just, generic jumble. AI very much is garbage in, garbage out. And, you definitely want to make sure that you are still doing things and accessing information and keeping those neural pathways open. So I go through all of that in the book in a way that's, very processable. You can sit down and read it all at once, which is very ambitious. You can read it chapter by chapter, which I think is a great way to go, or it is highlighted with the exact terms of what you need. So you can find that thing in a fit of panic. I've been there, and use it in a way that works best for your brain.
It was,
Christine, did you read it all in one sitting? I guarantee you did.
yeah, I did.
Okay.
Because that's the way my brain works.
I
I really
love it.
I really like to just get in there and kind of get it done. I told everyone yesterday to leave me alone. I'm like, you have to leave me alone. I am reading how to work my AI, and you need to get out of here. Stop asking me if I'm going to do other tasks, because I'm not until I'm done reading this book.
I am hyper focused.
I'm pretty sure you read Lord of the Rings all in one sitting though too.
No, that was Christmas break. That was
Okay,
Christmas
that's-
break. It was all in one.
Very impressive.
It was all in one sitting, but it was Christmas break. It's
Oh,
not like
okay.
there was other stuff happening.
Gotcha,
Not like
gotcha.
I was going over to my friends' houses or anything.
And sorry,
My
I
favorite thing that
interrupted
I've been
you.
hearing, my
No,
favorite
go
thing I've been
ahead.
hearing so far is, I'm somebody who doesn't read well and process stuff. I'll read 5 pages and realize I haven't taken in a single word. So I listen to Speechify while I'm reading things, which is a text to voice app. So Snoop Dogg reads me almost everything. Snoop Dogg reading me medical
Shut your
journal articles
mouth.
is my favorite thing in the world. And so I've been enjoying the other people that have been using Speechify to read my book, what voices they're picking. And it's just been making my heart very happy.
I cannot. I'm doing nothing else tonight. I'm speechifying the shit out of everything. I can't wait.
Just you and
The
Snoop
best thing is that
Dogg.
when I need to memorize things, I listen to it over and over again. And so when I hit something in my talk that I can't remember the words that I was looking for, I hear Snoop Dogg telling it to me because he's the voice that reads things to me. So
Oh my God, I love that. If Snoop Dogg would have practiced the intro to this with me, I guarantee I wouldn't have fucked it up.
no, because then you hear Snoop Dogg and you're like,
Yeah.
Snoop, I got this.
Got it.
We got this.
Got it. Oh my gosh, I cannot wait.
Yes.
I cannot wait. Christine, sorry, you were going to say something about the book.
Oh.
But this was so much better. I'm so glad that we interrupted.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I was just going to tell Lindsay about my phone call to you this morning, where I was like a crazed weasel whose shirt was too tight.
It's my favorite.
So I got up, I did yoga, I did all these things, and then I had a large coffee before I took any ADHD medication. So this shirt was strangling me on purpose, I was pretty sure. And I had a very important meeting at 10 o'clock that I wasn't quite ready for. And I could not get myself settled down enough to get ready. And this is 7:30, 8 o'clock, right? So I still have 2 hours before this meeting to,
But time doesn't exist.
Right. I don't understand that. If I'm not doing it right now, then it's later. And
yeah,
it's
exactly.
later.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I knew, right now, it's right now. It's right now. I have to do it right now. And I couldn't manage to get myself settled down in any way, shape, or form in order to get my shit together at all. So what I did is I sat down in front of AI and I was like, hello.
Wait, you called your emotional support
I
animal
did. I called
first,
my emotional support animal and I
which is
said,
me.
help me, help me, help me. And you were very helpful and you said, I can't do anything for you. Are you
You're
okay
full of
now?
shit. I said, You read the book. I said, what did Lindsay tell you to do?
She
Find out what ChatGPT has to tell you to do.
No, it was really helpful because what I took from the book was your brain is good at very specific things. Like my brain is good at solving big problems. My brain is good at uh, coming up on the fly with a solution to something that absolutely has to happen right now. Like I am a fantastic person to call in a crisis because I'm going to be like very like great. No, we're not going to do that. Yeah, it's okay. We're going to solve this problem and everything is going to be fine and everyone's going to have a fantastic weekend. But in order to get ready for that meeting, no, there was no way, just having a meltdown. So I sat down in front of my little chat GPT and I was like, hello friend, I am struggling with this thing and here are the 14 thoughts that I need to organize for this meeting. Can you help me just put them into big categories? And there it was. Here is my
Yay!
outline for the meeting. I was like, oh my God, Chad, because
I have
that's
a
what we
little
call him.
tear. That's
Chad,
amazing.
Chad GPT. So Chad just then organized some of those things, and then I could kind of glam on like whatever it is onto that and take the rest of it forward. I'm like, that's all I needed. Thank you, Chad. I appreciate you helping me. But yeah,
That
I
makes
mean,
me so happy.
like that is the biggest thing I took from the book is you're going to be super successful and your brain is still yours and your voice is still yours, but there are going to be times where you can just turn it over. Like you don't have to be super good at the stuff that you're not good at because most likely the stuff that I'm not good at is the stuff that Chad's good at. Like organize this for me because I'm not going to be able to do it right now. My shirt is strangling me.
Yes, as somebody who gets very crazy about fabric as well, I like the craze weasel. I tend to go with the raccoon on meth analogy for myself. It's also the way I load a dishwasher. I cried in my closet last night because I was organizing and I found too many old like Warby Parker boxes that the glasses came in, which
Yeah.
sometimes are great to put in drawers to organize things. But I had saved so many of them that I was feeling really guilty about recycling them, and I didn't know how many to hold on to because I might not hold on to enough of them, and then I was going to need them someday. Getting a pair of Warby Parker glasses is really expensive just to get the box for organizing things. And so I called on ChatGPT to help me come up with a solution for organizing the closet versus crying in the closet. I did get an ice pack before I did this, which was very helpful. I do need to share. So ChatGPT is my I'm about to spiral, help me calm down on this. And there are so many mind fucks that happen for you when you are self-publishing a book. And one of them is that Amazon slow rolls out your reviews the first week. And so people are messaging me like, I put a review in and I don't see it and I can't do anything about it, which apparently this is a classic problem with Amazon. But I was double checking this with ChatGPT this morning before I had a meltdown about it. And it reassured me that this is a classic Amazon issue. And then it said, in the meantime, feel free to picture Amazon's review department as a single overworked intern named Chad, who's still on dial up. It won't speed things up, but it might make it funnier.
Oh, Chad. Chad.
And it did make it much funnier.
I love that.
That
So Chad can also crack a joke, make you laugh. I mean,
It can crack a joke for me to like
yeah,
me, but don't
right.
don't try to add jokes to my writing. Sometimes it does that, and then I have to remind it like you don't bring the funny, I bring the funny. Your jokes are not funny. You're the scaffolding, I'm the funny. Please don't add jokes.
this is so key. Trying to get Chad to write something for me. Like when we first started the podcast, I was like, please, Chad. I think it might have been the first time that Sarah and I had used Chat GPT. We're like, can you describe our podcast? We're funny. That was really all we told him. Like, hey, we're sisters and we're funny. We want to talk about serious mental health stuff, only we're funny. He like Chad is trying to like crack jokes in this, and he's like the hilarious, like the word
Mm,
hilarious comes up 1,000 times
billion.
in our introductions. Like
That's
every
amazing.
episode, every
Yeah.
episode
Yeah.
description.
No, I've actually my ChatGPT has gotten too good at sounding like me. So you know that sometimes ChatGPT will hallucinate and just like say something that's totally off base and not accurate. And I responded with like, that's not even close to what I asked you for. And it responded with, woof, I really botched that, didn't I? And I've created a robot version of myself.
It's fantastic. So funny thing, beginning of this semester. So my daughter's a sophomore in college now. I asked Chad what a good Christmas present would be for this person because she has everything that anybody could ever want. And I was like, can you just give me some ideas, like a calendar? Like, can we help her get organized? And Chad threw out like a whole list of ADHD tools for Olivia to use, like calendars and stuff that would connect with her Moodle at school. So it would like pull things in and different ways that she could interact with her. I think we ended up getting her an Alexa, like an Alexa calendar. And so she's like a step ahead of me because she's been doing that for a semester. Although I will say she's home for the summer, her Alexa is on the floor over here because obviously she doesn't need help with executive function in the summertime. She's not taking two classes or working a job or, managing anything here.
Mhm.
Bless her sweet little heart.
Bless your heart.
So, yeah, I mean, I think looking at that, looking at what Chad suggested and then reading your book, I was like, oh, yes, yes. Oh, well, that's why that didn't work because that's just not designed for the way that Olivia's brain works. So the comparing and the contrasting was really interesting. And I'm like, I can take this piece and I can make them kiss and we can end up with a little AI high functioning baby that will work to kind of fill in the gaps. I love it.
That's awesome. And that's one of my favorite things about it is that it'll help you continue to tweak, especially if you've had the paid version and it's remembering things, is that you can say like, remember when we talked about that thing last week? And, like it's become like my assistant / buddy, work partner, which gives
Right.
me accountability. I'm definitely someone who doesn't want to let other people down, even if it's ChatGPT. And so like if ChatGPT, I've like given a deadline that I'm going to do something, I don't want to let ChatGPT down. And so like it can be like you can use it in the way that is going to help you best. And so like if you want to gamify stuff and have it come up with games for you, like that's fantastic. I am someone who occasionally likes to pretend I'm on a talk show, like while I'm like doing the dishes, and like that helps me get the dishes done the best way to do dishes. No one actually should watch me do dishes or load a dishwasher. It's really it's troubling for everybody involved. That's why my husband puts the dish in the dishwasher because it's not pretty.
I I also pretend I'm on a talk show when I fold laundry. I think that's so funny.
I love it. It actually gets me to do it. And like, that's how I do my hair. I have a lot of hair and like, one of the things that my therapist recommended was like timing everything in my life so that I could like actually start getting like a concept of time, because my husband would be like, we have to leave in 5 minutes. And I would be like, oh, so I have enough time to shower and like blow out all of this, which when I finally timed it, it's 90 minutes if I don't get distracted. That is start to finish 90 minutes. And I'm thinking like 5 minutes is like all of the time in the world. So yeah, no, I timed how long it takes me to do like the standard dog walk, how long it takes me to like make a sandwich, so because for me, like 5 minutes and 5 hours can feel exactly the same. I had a really big thing this morning and so I like got in the shower at 6:45 for this 10 o'clock thing. I got all the time in the world so that I'm like answering emails, and I've blown out this part of my hair. So I've like one section of my hair blown out, and then I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go have breakfast, and then like all of a sudden it's like 15 minutes left, and I'm like trying to finish my makeup and everything else because I've given myself all the time in the world, but all the time in the world can go very quickly.
Yes.
Mhm.
This is Sarah's
Christine knows.
constant irritation with me is that I have no idea how long it takes to do anything. She's like, "Are you almost here?" I was like, "Yeah. Yeah." And
No,
we live about an hour apart. "Are you almost here?" "Yeah. Yeah. No, I haven't even walked out
I
to the
haven't left the
car
house
yet."
yet. Yeah.
that's my irritation with you is that I will ask you, "Are you almost here?" And you will say, "Yeah, like 5 minutes." And you
5
literally
minutes.
just left the fucking house. Like, just tell me you just left the house.
I
Just
don't want
tell
to
me.
disappoint.
Right.
I don't
But
know. And
I'm
people with
gonna figure it
ADHD on the
out.
time thing, we are so quick to lie about that. Like
Right.
I don't lie about a lot, but I will lie to just about anybody about how much time I have to get to someplace. And I live in LA. It is nothing is close. Nothing is close. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm 5 minutes away.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm still I'm still in the shower.
Yeah.
Still in the shower.
See, this is
But
what makes me say I don't have ADHD, ADHD, because
HPV.
I'm
Sorry.
anyway, because that's like one thing I do not do. Like I'm very, very aware of time. And when we have to be somewhere, like I will literally go through step by step. All right, these are all the things I have to do before we leave. And this is how much each of those is like I'm very planned and trying to
I
teach my
hate to break it
child
to you,
that.
but that could also be a symptom of ADHD when you overly plan to be on time for things.
Okay.
Just FYI.
Just a heads up. No, when we were getting
I'm just
married,
gonna
our
have a
rabbi
gubby
gave us
dick.
a survey of like our favorite things about each other, the things that annoy us about each other. And my husband was definitely like my concept of time and that I'm late to everything. And the rabbi did tell him that it's not my fault that my people have been on a lunar calendar for thousands of years. So
Makes sense.
I'm not entirely blaming ADHD on this.
So I travel all the time, and I have a sheet, a Google sheet in my Google Drive called Airport Math, which tells me each of the lines, because I'm a data nerd by trade. So each of the lines has a amount of time. Like, are you checking bags? Yes or no? Yes, I'm checking bags. So it adds that time in, so that when I every time, like I will open it up and be like, here's when my flight leaves, here's when I need to wake up, and here's when I need to leave the house. Airport
I live
Do
math.
you
10 minutes
follow
from
it?
the airport and I have pre-check and clear. So I leave myself the most inappropriate amounts of time to get to the airport and and I'm like still always, always rushing because I'm like, I got, like it's not going to take me any time at all.
Right.
And my dad, who's somebody who like, if the flight leaves at noon, thinks you should be at the airport at like 7 o'clock the night before.
Mm-hmm.
So one time I was having him drop me off for a flight here and he was like, when does your flight board? And I said 7 minutes. And I was just like, I just watched the color drain from his face. And I'm like, you're dropping me off. Like it boards in 7 minutes. I've got all the time in the world.
It's airport math. I have it written down. It takes me 4 minutes to walk from the parking lot to the gate. Four
And
minutes.
you talk about it and it gives me panic attacks. Like I can't, it hurts. It
You
physically hurts
do
me.
have you do have to renew your pre-check, I found out, because it stops working if you don't renew it when it's expired and they don't send a notification. So everyone should know when that happens so that they can be on
Ooh.
top of it, because sometimes you show up at the airport and your pre-check is not on your ticket and they can't do anything about it because your pre-check has expired, and then there's a fairly long line in front of you and you better hope that those Sour Patch candies are in your pocket because that is when the meltdown will imminently start.
100%. 100%. Yeah, Sarah and I often occasionally travel together, and then it is just an exercise, and we don't need to be there this early.
You're wonderful. You're the best to travel with because you know how crazy I am about travel. So you do whatever I ask you to do to make
Right.
me feel better. I mean, I am the one who has to drug myself to get on the plane. So like I feel like that's what guides you, like
Right.
in just
Right.
doing what I need to do to feel better.
You're my
I have
sister.
a service dog now for narcolepsy, and so I travel with him, and so it has helped me get to the airport earlier, knowing that I have to deal with all of the dog stuff. So that has helped with everybody's timing.
See, dogs are helpful, Christine. You should get one.
I'm like your service dog,
You are
Sarah.
kind of actually like my service dog, though. I feel like we're each other's
Yeah.
service animals. This is what we've discovered.
Everyone should have one. I love it.
Do you have other questions for Lindsay? Because I could yammer at her all day long about
Yeah.
how fun it is.
I actually have, let me see. Considering I asked one of the questions, I
It's
have
always the
19
way.
more. But I'll just go with one.
You can ask one.
Which one do I want to? This is a pretty basic one, but being that ADHD, I think, is often misunderstood. What is the one thing one myth that you wish would just take a hike, like Get it out of the way.
That people with ADHD means that you're not high functioning. I very regularly, when I tell people that I have ADHD, they're like, but you're so put together. And I think that, I mean, that comes from spending 40 years feeling like I was an alien, just trying to figure out how the natives were operating. And so I have so many systems and tools and processes in
Hmm.
place to make sure that I'm not going to fuck up on a regular basis. You can have all of the craziness that people are expecting from little boys, but it's all in here. And so you might not see it, and I might look like I'm super put together, but like I'm constantly battling a chaos monster, and I am, working 4 times as hard to keep the plate spinning. And so I want people to recognize, even in themselves, that you can do really good in school, but as soon as, some of that structure disappears, and if you're really struggling with feeling like things, you should be able to do things better, there can be a reason for that. And that's the wiring in your brain. Very simple things. I have executive produced events for 250,000 people without batting an eye. But then, like, I sleep with a blackout mask that has sound in it, because sound is my like killer thing for getting to sleep at night, or when I wake up in the middle of the night getting back to sleep. But it involves being charged, and the plug was on the other side of the room, and the idea of like waking up in the morning and putting this mask on the charger on the other side of the room was like near impossible. I never thought that I should do that until I was going to put it on, and it was inevitably dead. So then I'm putting earbuds in, which then I would like lose one of those in the middle of the night, or they would go dead. And then I'm putting like on a corded pair of headphones, which is now wrapped around my neck, and my phone's not charging because the earphones are plugged into it. And that is an executive function thing. And you start internalizing that as like, I
Right.
am the laziest human on the face of the planet that I can't charge the damn headset that I know I need to go to sleep. And so everything for us is very out of sight, out of mind. So now I have a plug that is glued to my nightstand, so I can see it in my immediate vicinity when I wake up, so that I can put my headphones on there so that I have sound when I go to sleep. But I want people to recognize that even if you're smart and you feel super competent, if there's a lot of noise in your head, that there's a reason for that.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
I love that. I love that so much. Like the successful person is just completely motivated by fear of failure. Like 100%. Like everything inside of me is like, you got to do a little better. You got to work a little harder. You have to fix this. And if I would have recognized it earlier for what it was, which was, your brain just doesn't line up like everybody else's. And whether that's ADHD or anxiety or depression or any number, narcolepsy, any number of those things, if things aren't the way that you think that they should be, then there's a reason to talk to somebody about that. And
For
I
sure.
really wish that I would have that somebody would have mentioned that a little bit earlier. That
Huh. That's weird. I think
I
somebody
know you
may.
did. I know
Hmm.
you did. I know you did. I know
Hmm.
you did.
It's really
There were a lot
odd.
of people in my life when I was like, I have ADHD, and they're like, oh, really? Really? That seems so crazy to me.
Right.
It's the
Right.
same. Yeah. And that's the same. I get that a lot when I talk about anxiety and the anxiety that I suffer from and social anxiety. And I say that, and people are like, are you kidding me? Like, you're super social and you've got it all together. I can't imagine that you have any sort of anxiety. Like, yeah, it's exhausting. Like, that's what I've been doing my whole life, is working to make sure that you can't tell what is going on here. And that's exhausting.
I think that was the biggest aha moment for me with my diagnosis, was that I had spent my whole life thinking I was the chaos monster when I had been
Mhm.
battling the chaos monster all along. And that was the most amazing thing for me, was to be able to understand, like, this is what's been happening. I have a poodle who's joined
I
us.
was just going to say, there's a
And
dog. I didn't see it.
that this craziness that I thought that I was always attracting, was something that was external, and that I'm sorry, that was internal, that
Mhm.
I was battling this thing, and that I actually had been working so much harder, even when you're like internalizing that you're lazy and just not as good as everybody else. And that was such an amazing aha moment for me. But the hardest thing after that was that just because I understood what was happening about my past didn't mean that I had magically laid down tracks to get moving again.
Right.
Right.
For sure. And
Right.
that's where you go and you get the help that you need and you advocate for yourself. Like we started this call, it's all about knowing that yourself. And if somebody's not listening to you, there is someone out there that will listen to you and continue to advocate for yourself.
It is okay to fire a doctor.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's
Absolutely.
almost demanded.
I actually have one more question.
Do
Um,
you have a, do you
I have
have
a, s-
a,
I have a spoolie for my eyelashes
okay, I'm sorry. I don't know why I was distracted by that.
because I was putting it on my nose. And Lindsay, you said you have a mask with music. I want one of these. Can you email me the link to one of these?
I will absolutely email it to you. We should put it in the show notes. I use
Yeah.
the Manta
Becca.
sound mask, and it's really great. So it's blackout.
Mhm.
I, like many people with ADHD, have a narrator in my head, and she gets louder and meaner as the night goes
Yeah.
on. And for years, I thought I needed the TV to fall asleep. And then when I found out it wasn't watching TV that I needed, I like listening to dialogue. I don't like sleep stories because I don't want anyone talking to me and feeling like I need to like listen to it and understand. I
Mhm.
want to listen to other people talking so that my narrator shuts down. And so I love listening to comedy shows that I've already watched, so I'm not emotionally invested. And the minute that like dialogue sets in, I'm like, I am off to dreamland. And many of us wake up in the middle of the night, and I want people to know that that
Mhm.
is absolutely normal. Please do not attack yourself for waking up in the middle of the night. We are biologically programmed for this. But we need toolkits to go back to sleep. And so for me, putting on my sound, and I'm like back out. And just because dialogue works really well for me, sleep stories might be great for you. Play around with different noises. Some people like white noise, brown noise, pink noise. You might like listen to like jazz music. Whatever that thing is that makes your brain shut down. We love to have cues for sleep. You might not feel like a routine person, as many of us with ADHD really hate routines. Our brain is looking for cues. So we want to give our brain cues that it's time to come down, and it's time to start turning off and moving to the next thing, which is sleep.
I love this. I'm so excited because I love the noise, but my husband doesn't. When he's not home, I have my noisemaker on. It makes me happy. But when he's here, I don't do that
And
because
it's
he
flat
doesn't
panels,
like
so you
it.
can sleep on your side. And
Tried
then you get the blackout.
I tried with the AirPods, whatever the kids are calling them these days, and they just hurt laying like I can't sleep
Well, you
properly
lay on
with
your side, it
them.
also does a lot of pressure in your ear that's going to hurt. So the flat panels, you're not going to get that pressure situation, and you
Right.
can you can sleep. I'm a side sleeper too.
I'm so
And so
excited.
that's really comfortable. But I'm also someone who's like very sensitive to light in the room. These are actually blackout
Yeah.
curtains that go into my bedroom, but like an indicator light on the TV or like the blue light on
Mhm.
the air filter, like one of those catches me at the wrong time, and that'll wake me up. So having the blackout on the mask is super helpful for staying asleep as long as possible.
That's awesome. I'm so excited. And my inner narrator, that is, I've been calling that my brain voice for years now. And she's crazy. She's fun. She's really fun sometimes. Sometimes she's really mean.
She's so fun.
But I wish so badly that we could put a recorder in there and have
Oh, me
her.
too.
Like that shit would be gold.
I was a
Absolute
big fan of
gold.
The Good Place, so my narrator's
Yeah.
name is Janet.
I love it. Christine, have you watched that yet?
Well, I've started
You gotta
watching
watch
it like 3 times, and I get to the part where she swears, and then I'm like, this is so awesome, and then I forget.
Mm.
I
Yeah.
need
It's
to.
so worth it. It's such a
Yeah.
good show. It is 4 very easy to watch seasons.
Mhm.
I don't want to give away the big moment for anyone about what happened, so I'm not going to say anything else other than there's an awesome character named Janet, and I have
Uh-huh.
named my internal dialogue.
I love that. All right, Christine, Becca, anything else? Either of you?
Yes, I have one last question. What do you wish we would have asked? This is my favorite question. Like, what do you wish we would have asked you?
I feel like we covered so much. Like this was like such a fun conversation that I feel like I'm just like hanging out with friends and like talking about all of the like crazy directions that our brains go in. So I've just had a blast hanging out with you guys. So like I don't have anything else.
Yay.
I mean, I'm sure I do have things that I want to add and they'll come to me like seven minutes from now. But
Uh-huh.
in this moment, I feel very satisfied with all of the questions that were asked of me.
Yay.
Lindsay, do me one favor. Tell us the name of your book and tell people where they can get it one more time. And then Becca will put that in the show notes.
Fantastic. AI for ADHD, a practical guide to starting and actually finishing what matters. And you can find it on Amazon.
You're so fancy.
Yay. I love it. This all makes my heart so, so, so very happy. So we'll go ahead and wrap it up. So thank you, Lindsay. We appreciate it. We had so much fun with you too. And we'll chat a little bit after we hit stop too.